So, 2005 was a particularly notable year for the horror genre. Despite spawning some truly awful cinematic experiences, namely new entries in The Fog, Alone in the Dark, Urban Legend, and Day of the Dead series, it gave us just as many, if not more, great features that have clearly stood the test of time. And seeing as how those awesome scary films are all celebrating their 20th anniversaries this year, I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Horror, and here are 10 great horror movies turning 20 in 2025, with spoilers of course. Number 10, The Devil's Rejects. Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses was an energetic, colourful, depraved, and darkly comedic effort that showed considerable promise for the fledgling filmmaker. However, it was also an unabashedly derivative tribute to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but with the metal attitude and comic book flashiness of Zombie's non-cinematic ventures. Although it's not exactly groundbreaking either, Zombie's direct follow-up, The Devil's Rejects, was a significant improvement, to the point that many fans still rank it as his greatest movie. In contrast to the somewhat amateurish grindhouse/exploitation tone of its predecessor, The Devil's Rejects seems professionally and confidently made. From its cinematography and locations to its acting and soundtrack, The Devil's Rejects feels much more like a real movie. Likewise, its western revenge/serial killer road trip narrative is fairly well told and consistently compelling, with all three surviving members of the lovably loathsome Firefly family, Otis, Baby, and Captain Spaulding, receiving more depth and appeal alongside their equally psychopathic rival, Sheriff Wydell. Their epic final showdown, supported by Lynyrd Skynyrd's Freebird and Terry Reid's Seed of Memory, is the icing on the cake, cementing The Devil's Rejects as major evolution for Zombie. Let's just forget that 3 from Hell exists, okay? Yep, okay. Number 9, Saw 2. 2004's Saw was a massive hit, due largely to it being a deliciously demented ride with an iconic score and an ingenious twist ending. It helped popularize the decade's torture porn craze too, so getting another one out ASAP was essential. And when Saw 2 arrived a year later, it kicked off the franchise's initial gimmick of releasing a new entry every Halloween. Co-written by series co-creator Lee Whannell, it surpassed its precursor at the box office, and in terms of its grisly tone, terrifying traps, and big reveals. Impressive. Primarily, it contains the most unapologetically sadistic version of antagonist John Kramer, who proudly manipulates the police officers trying to save his newest victims, including the amusingly belligerent Eric Matthews. Now, Kramer's latest playthings may be forgettable, but the traps they encounter, especially the furnace and needle pit, are the stuff of nightmares. Plus, Saw 2 blows viewers' minds with 3 twists: that returning survivor Amanda Young is Kramer's accomplice, that Matthews' son Daniel has been safe in a safe all along, and that Matthews is left to die in the bathroom from the original Saw. For all those reasons, Saw 2 is easily the best Saw sequel and a highlight of 2000s horror. And speaking of 2000s horror, I want to know right now, what is your favorite horror movie from the 2000s? You let me know in the comments down below. Number 8, Antibodies. If Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs and David Fincher's Seven are considered psychological/crime thrillers with substantial horror cred, writer-director Christian Alvart's Antibodies should be as well. In fact, it functions like a hybrid of those 2 masterpieces, and it might be the scariest of them. The opening scene alone is incredibly gripping and ghastly, with pederast murderer Gabriel Engel operating on his latest victim moments before being captured by police during a Fincher-esque grimy storm. From there, Engel challenges naive officer Michael Martins and his colleagues, just like Hannibal Lecter exploits Clarice Starling, cleverly manipulating every officer who interrogates him. All the while, Martins is determined to prove that Engel murdered 12-year-old Lucy too, and their cat-and-mouse battle of wits and morality reality is as absorbing as it is bluntly macabre. The last act is particularly suspenseful and alarming due to its bleak assertions and potential outcomes, as Engel confesses that he saw Martin's teenage son Christian kill Lucy. There'd already been hints about Christian's homicidal tendencies, and unfortunately Martin decides that he must kill his son to prevent him becoming like Engel. Now, I won't spoil how Antibodies wraps up for you, but suffice to say that it's very satisfying. So yeah, give it a watch and then let us know what you think in the comments, why not? Number 7. Constantine. Make no mistake, this adaptation of the famous comic book series is full of scary situations, atmospheres, and characters. Especially early on, when Keanu Reeves' John Constantine exorcises a demon from a young girl. It's just that the movie taps into supernatural fantasy, superhero action, thriller/mystery intrigue, and dry humor as well. It's got a lot going on. Ironically, Reeves' typically limited acting range helps him bring an alluring stoicism to his representation of the reluctant demon hunter. Likewise, he has great chemistry with Rachel Weisz's detective Angela Dodson, ensuring that their quest to solve the death of Angela's twin sister while preventing hell on Earth is relentlessly interesting. The film is fleshed out by delightfully idiosyncratic performances from Shia LaBeouf, Peter Stormare, Jimon Hounsou, and Tilda Swinton too. Together, and in conjunction with the creator's quirky visual style and lively writing, they evoke the playful edginess of the Men in Black and Hellboy franchises, as well as 2012's grossly underappreciated John Dies at the End. Understandably, Reeves is aching to play the character once again, and if online reports are accurate, work is already underway on a cinematic sequel. If it's anywhere near as good as the 2005 original, then moviegoers are in for a real treat here. Fingers crossed it actually gets made, right? Number 6. Feast. The first film, penned by writing duo Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan, comedy horror flick Feast is a criminally underappreciated creature feature that's as grotesque as it is goofy. Like spiritual predecessors from Dusk Till Dawn and Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight, it revolves around a ragtag group of people who must put their differences aside to defeat bloodthirsty monsters. Part of its charm comes from its Robert Rodriguez-esque edginess and self-aware sense of humor. Aside from its comparably snappy camera work, the movie introduces each new protagonist with a tongue-in-cheek character card that reveals their name, life expectancy, and 2 other facts. For instance, Bossman's vibe is mean, stoned, and horny, and his life expectancy is regular or extra crispy. More often than not, those jokes, in addition to many comical outbursts, situations, and interactions, totally land, endearing audiences to the film's universally appealing cast of unlikely heroes. Now, although Feast doesn't take itself too seriously, it provides enough carnage candy to satisfy gorehounds looking for nauseating practical effects too. So if that's you, then you're in for a treat. Beyond that, it's shown early on that anyone can be mutilated, so there's a good amount of tension in knowing that no one is safe from the creature's reckless rage. If you're enjoying this horrifying trip down memory lane, then hit that subscribe button below and you'll get even more fantastic What Culture horror videos on your screen. Number 5. Noroi, The Curse. There are many superbly scary, effective, and imaginative Asian films from the 2000s that have gained sizable followings, like Cairo, Dark Water, A Tale of Two Sisters, One Missed Call, Ju-On, The Grudge, etc. But one lesser-known gem that's just as worthy of admiration is Koji Shiraishu's craftily disturbing pseudo-documentary, Noroi, The Curse. It centers around the recovered footage of paranormal documentarian/author Musafumi Kobayashi, who recently disappeared during the making of his latest feature, The Curse. Unlike much of the era's found footage offerings, however, Noroi is surprisingly believable and unsettling because of its subtlety, daringness, nuance, and unpredictability. Its unshakable magic lies in its dense moodiness, narrative twists including the reframing of previously seen scenes, modest yet chilling use of visuals and sound effects, and downright horrifying ending involving child endangerment and corruption. Together, these elements allow the film to feel like an actual true crime/paranormal investigation that should have never been completed, broadcast, and witnessed. As with a lot of Asian pictures in the genre, there's rich storytelling and emotion surrounding Noroi the Curse's commendable scares. Consequently, it'll keep viewers up at night contending with both the terrors they've just endured and the larger psychological and spiritual implications they're forced to contemplate. Number 4. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. 1973's The Exorcist forever set the template for how to do an exorcism film, so it's no wonder why there have been dozens of shamelessly derivative imitators since it premiered. Thankfully, The Exorcism of Emily Rose doesn't emulate William Friedkin and William Peter Blatty's masterpiece though. Nope, instead it adapts the real-life case of 23-year-old Annalise Michel, who died from malnutrition following a failed exorcism in 1976, into a fascinating and moving courtroom drama. There are successfully scary moments scattered throughout, but the movie prioritizes engaging conflicts and thought-provoking psychological, medical, and theological ambiguities above all else. Led by top-tier actors Laura Linney, Jennifer Carpenter, and Tom Wilkinson, the film contrasts the spiritual-based defense of Father Moore against the scientific reasoning of the prosecution. Regardless of how accurate their arguments are, both stances are detailed and logical enough to keep audiences invested in what happens, and unsure of if Moore should be held responsible for Rose's death. Now, admittedly, some of the CGI scares exude 2000s cheesiness. However, that is forgivable because viewers still get a deep sense of the mental and physical torture that Rose endured. It's her ordeal, alongside the philosophical and medical uncertainties the film examines, that makes The Exorcism of Emily Rose so frightening. Number 3. Hostel. If the first Saw movie gave cinephiles a taste of torture porn, then Eli Roth's career-making Hostel served up a main course of overwhelmingly detailed and cruel dismemberments. After all, Roth's vicious tale focuses on 3 unfortunate backpackers, Paxton, Josh, and Ollie, who get lured into an underground Slovakian dungeon to be tormented by rich businessmen who pay to enact their merciless fantasies without judgment or jail time. Hostel certainly wasn't the first exploitation film to subject its subjects to such awful circumstances. See, or better yet, don't see, The Guinea Pig and August Underground franchises in addition to earlier examples. But it was among the first times such depravity reached mainstream American audiences. Indeed, the ruthlessness and explicitness of Hostel's brutality, including multiple body parts being severed, was audaciously upsetting, breaking new ground for what could be shown to and enjoyed by the masses. Plus, Paxton and Josh are initially presented as unsympathetic symbols of toxic masculinity and American excess/entitlement, prompting stateside audiences to question their responses to the pair's fates as they evaluate their own cultural privileges and their willingness to explore foreign locations. Now, by no means cinematic perfection, but Hostel was a game changer that nailed what it's going for. Number 2. Wolf Creek. You need mention only 4 words to encapsulate the PTSD-inducing trauma of watching Greg McLean's Ozploitation classic Wolf Creek. Head on a stick. Undoubtedly, the moment in question is among the most infamous scenes in 2000s horror. And if you didn't know already, said moment sees serial killer Mick, who's based on real-life murderer Ivan Milat, sever the spinal cord of backpacker Liz after he's cut off 3 of her fingers. Lovely. Yeah, this is definitely not the only reason why Wolf Creek is shockingly savage. You see, Liv is traveling across Australia with 2 friends, Christy and Ben, and eventually Mick assaults Christy and guns her down on the road. He tortures Ben too, and thanks to some footage that Liz finds, it's clear that this is far from the first time Mick's murdered unsuspecting tourists. The film is doubly disconcerting and successful because Mick is played by the intrinsically likable John Jarrett, whose disarming friendliness and sadistic sarcasm add insult to injury once he exposes his barbaric intentions. I mean, if not for his evil ways, he'd be the perfect person to hang out with on a rowdy Saturday night. And it's certainly a good thing that Jarrett returned for Wolf Creek's worthwhile 2013 sequel and subsequent TV series. Number 1. The Descent. It's almost an obligation to mention Neil Marshall's The Descent whenever you're discussing peak 2000s horror, as it's a textbook case of how convincing protagonists, effective pacing, white-knuckle editing, and a distinguishing look can turn genericness into greatness. So let's talk about it. The tragic backstory of main heroine Sarah, who survived a car accident that killed her husband and daughter, makes her empathetic from the start. Ultimately, it strengthens her arc into a fierce leader determined to survive multiple ordeals too. And while her 5 friends aren't the deepest characters in the genre, all of them, especially the corrupt Juno, are distinctive enough to be compelling. That achievement goes hand in hand with Marshall wisely devoting the first half of the feature to establishing their relationships and backstories, and the inherently claustrophobic nature of cave diving. As such, The Descent is a gripping and uneasy experience long before the monstrous crawlers begin picking the women off one by one. And once they do, Marshall's movie becomes more of a visually striking nail-biter thanks to its dynamic camera angles, brisk editing, and awe-inspiring oversaturation of colors, particularly red and green. Oh, and although the deceptively grim US ending works fine, the original bleaker ending is truly terrific.